If you got a wife, need not apply. These are the gays of our lives. Yeah, these are the gays of our lives.
Hi, this is Sarah.
And this is Drew.
And we are the hosts of These Are the Gays of Our Lives.
Yes,
Welcome
we are.
to our first episode, which is always a little, messy. So we're trying to see our way through. But our purpose of These Are the Gays of Our Lives is to bring attention to usually two. We'll each bring one to the episode. People, LGBTQ plus people that through history, all throughout history, it might be current, it might be way back when, and although I'm sure there's not much literature on any medieval gays. And they all were a little bit gay, I think, in medieval times.
Yes.
And more
Especially
than
if
that,
they were wearing tights.
Yes, they were all a
and
bit
wigs.
pan.
Yes.
Yeah, the wigs gave it away.
Yes.
And we just want to call or celebrate the work they did that didn't always get recognized or celebrated or appreciated because of their sexual preference, which is bullshit, as we all know. And we're going to give them the attention they deserve, bring them back into, current minds because they may have been forgotten or never even remembered for our, current culture. And our first few episodes, we want to concentrate on some vintage gays in Hollywood. And as we all know, Hollywood has, even to this day, you see men walking on the red carpet with a gal, and you yell at your screen and you say, "He's gay," and that lady, she's a
There's
beard.
no way.
Yeah, they are not together, and there's no way they've even touched sexually once.
Nope.
And that has been going on for a long time because, of course, studios want to make money. You want to go to a
Yes.
movie and you want to think for some reason that Henry Cavill is going to fall in love with you when he won't give you the time of day, and you know it. Not that he's gay, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm sure many people would appreciate if he was, I'm sure. But
Right.
that's the point of our show. And again,
Yeah. And I hope that I've already learned so much from my little thing of research. So, that's also the point of it too, as far as to learn more about these figures and, what they contributed to society. And then, like Sarah said, our first theme is really like the old movie stars.
Right. And looking at how life is fascinating alone just 100 years ago. And how they had to live and what society's rules were. Of course, if you were a movie star, society was a little bit different for you. You got off a little easier, but still, it's really fascinating.
Right.
We do have some segments we want to bring to you at the beginning before we start with our, figures. And the first segment is where we want to take a look at media, be it cinema, TV, any kind of film or celluloid bringing a story to us where they didn't mean for it to be really gay, but it is really kind of gay.
Kind of.
And we are going to then put it into our archives, our vaults, and it's going to be called, "Hey, that's kind of gay." And our main example is, as we all know, if you're older, or I guess the youngs really haven't seen it, but from Top Gun, the gayest scene ever made is the volleyball scene in Top Gun, and I'm sure they didn't make it to be the gayest scene ever put on screen, including gay movies, and including gay porn. It's the gayest scene ever, but it is.
Yes.
So I have a scene for you, a movie I think only 2 or 3 people have seen, and that's you and me and our friend Gina have maybe seen this movie. No one else has.
Basically.
and it is called Showdown in Little Tokyo. And I think it had to be made in the 80s. I should have looked it up, but it had to be 80s.
Yeah, or early 90s maybe.
Yeah, maybe early 90s. But it has Brandon Lee, who did pass away horribly in a tragic movie accident, and Dolph Lundgren, who was Drago, Ivan Drago in Rocky IV, which again is an incredibly gay, kind of gay movie, not intending to be gay.
Yes.
But there is a scene in this movie that I don't know how Brandon Lee agreed to say these lines. Like, why did he agree in the script to say, I think I'll say this, and it will be on film for the rest of his life wasn't that long, unfortunately for him. But it's very gay. You don't say this to a regular person.
It's very weird. And I can't imagine somebody getting the script and being like, oh, yeah. This is an excellent scene. What an excellent scene. Oh,
yeah, this reads for the character. This brings strong representation to what my character is about to this movie.
That's right.
So first off, in the scene, they're like in a house and there's bad guys. Like they're two police officers or something, and there's bad guys surrounding the house. So it's a very tense scene. And they're trying to get weapons to fight the bad guys. But all Brandon Lee is talking about is Dolph Lundgren's huge dick. Mm-hmm. And he brings it up again and again. Like, he brings it up first. He says something like, you must have scared, like his girlfriend, you must have scared her when you stripped down to get in the hot tub with your monster hog or something like that. Yes. So it's like one mention already. And Dolph Lundgren is like, oh, and he goes and gets weapons out of his
and then
cupboard.
he's amassing all the
and he's putting a
rifles
bunch of knives
and
in his underwear, like cutting up his dong with all his knives. I don't think you should put knives down your briefs.
No.
Slash your balls right in half. But then he says, now, before we die, I just want to let you know, you have the biggest dick I've ever seen on a man. Would that be your last words?
I know.
To a man you just really met?
So whoever wrote this, they were like, oh, yeah. This will never make it.
Yeah, they won't agree to it.
Let's just put it in.
He put it in, and he thought they're going to take it out because they're going to get that it was a joke.
Right.
Hey, my last words before I die. Your dick is a monster elephant dick. Can I please see it again?
Oh, so funny.
That's the weirdest. And then they just go on with the movie like he just didn't.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, we have bad guys.
Sexually harass him horrifically.
That's right.
and Dolph Lundgren had to file a report at the police station.
That's right. Oh, God.
So that movie goes in. The whole thing, that's the very gay. And it's very dumb, but that's very gay.
Yes.
So welcome Showdown in Little Tokyo to our media vault. Hey, that's kind of gay.
Yes. Okay, so then we're also going to plan to have another segment called Not a Kick in the Crotch with an Iron Boot. AKA like a feel-good story.
Right.
Something that's happy. So I picked, this is not terribly new, but what I picked was in 2024, Thailand and Nepal, two Asian countries, have both recognized same-sex marriages, which is humongous.
That's amazing.
Because I don't think there are very many countries. I know like Taiwan had just released, or not released, just allowed it or something like that, or was in 2023. But it's also really interesting too, because I've been to Thailand probably around 10 times, on vacation and stuff. And it's such a gay mecca, like Bangkok and other like islands for vacation and stuff. And so it's kind of weird to think like, oh, actually gay marriage isn't legal here, and well, now it is. And so anyway, so I think that's a really good thing. But also Thailand is Buddhist, and I've been to lots of countries in Asia, and like the Buddhists, they kind of like you just, do your thing and then just be a good person. And
I like that.
Don't suck, So
I like that. That would be nice if that was here, but That ain't going to happen.
No.
That ain't going to happen.
No.
Well, I thought before we start our vintage Hollywood gaze, we should say who we are. So I am Sarah, and I guess you could say I'm female, born a female.
Yeah.
And I think my dad was happy
Identifying,
he didn't have
yes.
boys.
Yes.
You know, identify female, although, man, sometimes I am a handsome female on certain days. And I am married to a goddamn man.
Mm-hmm.
And born in 1974, so I'm going to be 50 very soon, which is a real kick in the crotch,
That's
an
right.
iron boot. And I am also a teacher, which is a double kick in the crotch with an iron boot. Because that's a hard job.
Yes.
Real hard job.
It is.
It is.
All right. And I am Drew, and I am male. I also have a husband, and I'm also a teacher, so that's a lot we have in common. But we've known each other for a really long time.
30 years, I think,
yeah,
right?
just about.
Jesus.
Yeah. You're older than I am, but
Yeah.
not by much. By a couple
God,
weeks,
thanks.
I think.
And then we met in college
Right.
at the University of San Diego.
Right.
And with a menagerie of total douchebags, we made a nice little group of friends.
Yes. Quite the cast.
Yeah. And it was, meant to be
Yeah.
since then.
Yeah.
Oh, well, do you want me to start
Yeah, go ahead.
with mine? Okay. So I picked a very handsome fellow that lived a very short life, as did yours,
Yes.
actually.
Yeah.
Montgomery Clift. And I'm sure a lot of people are saying, who the hell is that? Many people probably do not know, but he was a very famous actor for his time. In fact, a very talented actor. He was nominated for 4 Academy Awards, which he did not win any. But to be nominated for 4 is pretty amazing, since I think that's Meryl Streep has been nominated
she's
like 200 times. But way up there, that's for nominations. In his short time acting, really, that's pretty impressive. He did go by Monty, but then it makes me think of Monty Burns from The Simpsons.
Yes.
Or like what you call your old cat that's 32 years old, Monty. But I'll call him Monty. And what I used for sources to learn about him is his nephew. So his nephew, Robert Clift, he's about our age. His dad was Montgomery Clift's older brother. So I feel like his dad had Robert Clift, the nephew of Monty, really old. He had some old sperm.
Yeah.
And so Robert Clift, the nephew who made this documentary I watched, had passed away in the 80s. So I think he was really kind of an old dad. But Robert Clift did a great job on this documentary. And then there was a book I read that I'll talk about as well to get the information on this guy. But he was fascinating. And if people know who he is, he has a reputation that actually is not true. What people say about him and what he's known for is they call it, he had the slowest suicide in all of Hollywood. That's what they say about him. That he just took the longest to drink himself to death because he was so depressed that he was gay. And that was not at all true at all. Now, he did drink himself to death, but he was a massive alcoholic, addicted booze hound. And you do that when you're a massive alcoholic. I personally know people my age and younger that have died from alcoholism. And I think a lot of people have. If you drink all day long and then mix pills, which he did, all day long, you're not going to live that long. And that's what he did. But I think people just assumed, well, he was gay, That's why he did it. And that is not true at all. And so his family wanted to make this documentary saying that is absolutely not the reason, and talk about him a bit. And what I'm glad they did, because everything else about him, that's why they say he died, and it's not true. He had a really, really unique childhood. I don't know if I would want this childhood or not, but he was born in Omaha, Nebraska, which you think, what the hell? Like, this guy who is a movie star, he's just born in Omaha in 1920. I couldn't tell if his dad was in World War I or not, because, World War I, all the men were gone. The women were, around to kind of do whatever or take up the slack of all the men being gone. And if your dad didn't die, he came back fucked in the head.
Right.
Because they had shell shock.
Shell shock.
And you would deal with it by saying, pull your act together, Fred, or fuck off. Like, deal with it. You didn't get help. You just, figure it out, bitch. Mm-hmm. That's your help you would get. But your dad was fucked if he came back, So your family was fucked. Your dad couldn't function because he was so traumatized. But his dad was a banker, so I think they had a lot of money, which helped. And his mother, her name was Sunny. She decided she wanted her 3 children. So Monty had a twin sister they called Ethel. But then his older brother, Brooks, which is the father of this documentarian, she took her 3 kids and she wanted to give them an aristocratic upbringing. So they just toured Europe their entire childhood.
Oh my God.
And they had private tutors. That would be their school. And so she took them all over Europe, and they learned fluent French and German and English. And that was their childhood. So I think for an actor, that's probably good, because he had a lot of life experience. But also, it was just him and his siblings. He really didn't. You were traveling all the time. I don't think he had a lot of friends or close friends. But they settled in New York City when he was 14, and immediately he kind of went towards the theater, which his mom just said he was always just an actor. That's what he liked, and that's what he went straight into doing. And once he went into the theater, that's where he was. He just started doing plays. That's where he stayed. He was, anytime he could be in a play, be a side character, whatever, he was in it. So where we're getting this information, so his dad, the older brother Brooks, literally saved every single piece of memorabilia, every newspaper, every poster, every movie, every film strip that Monty had, and he had storage containers full of Monty's memorabilia, and he would go around to convention centers and show some of it. And Brooks was, I don't know if it's crazy or psychopath or just a documentarian. He would record on tape every single telephone conversation he had every time. Someone would call for the longest time. Someone would call
any random person.
Any random person, and he would record it. You were being taped.
Oh my God.
So there's tape after tape after tape of every telephone call he had, which is good because he recorded every conversation with Monty, so you could see what he was saying. But if you knew someone was recording all of your calls, that's weird. But I guess then Monty did it too, recorded every time someone called him, and they would keep tapes of it. That's kind of weird. Big round.
Well, yeah, right.
Tapes,
I know they must have had a big giant thing the size of a desk.
Crap. And
with a big button, click, record.
A huge ass desk of a recorder.
Right.
And you would hear it going. What's that on the phone making that noise, Monty? Oh, nothing.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah. Oh my God. So we do have a lot of information, and he did get some of his lover boyfriends to speak on camera. He actually dated the guy who played Jimmy Olsen on the Superman black and white TV show from the 50s. So he came on and was great, and just used to say Monty, he said Monty was a great guy. He was super funny. He was kind of like a Jim Carrey and a Jerry Lewis. So he's so surprised he always did dramas because he was so funny, like a joker. And he was very affectionate. He would go and kiss his friends on the mouth, male or female. He would, if he had a boyfriend, he would just walk down the, walk down the street, like grabbing them, holding their hands, hugging them. He didn't give two shits. And he just grabbed everybody. And he just said it would surprise, like Jimmy Olsen would be like, don't kiss me on the mouth.
Yeah. I'm going to get beat up.
I don't want to go to jail. But he was always super affectionate. So one book came out, I think it was in the 80s, by a guy named LaGuardia, his last name was. And this made the family super pissed because this is where the rumor started that, or it amplified the rumor that he drunk himself to death because he was so upset that he was gay, and which the family said, absolutely that's not true. So there was a tape of Brooks the brother bitching about this book to his mom, Sonny, who was so upset because the whole purpose of this book was that Sonny turned Montgomery gay because his childhood, his only friend was Sonny, his mother, and so she turned him gay. And Brooks was like, but I'm in the family, and why didn't I turn gay? Like, Mom, why didn't you turn me gay? And only Monty,
God.
And so Sonny was pissed. Like, you could tell how angry she was on the phone. And just, and she was like, what do I do? What do I do to, like, tell people that's not true? And Brooks is like, there's nothing you can do. But she said, I knew Monty was gay. She said homosexual,
Yes.
when he was 8. I knew it. Everybody knew it. And then Brooks said, Mom, he was bisexual. He dated women. And Sonny goes, no, he was a homosexual. And Brooks said, Mom, there were women. And she went, oh, come on. He was gay. She knew, like, he was into men. And she didn't give two shits.
What a legend.
But, yeah. She was so pissed, though, that, like, they just blamed it on her. And then she said that's just how he was. And now Monty did date some women. I don't know if he porked them or not, but I don't think he really wanted to do like the contract ever where he was forced to date a woman for looks. I think he wanted to avoid that. But then he really did like some women a lot and hung out with them. So I don't know if that's like what his family was thinking as dating. I don't know. But he had a lot of boyfriends in Hollywood and in the theater. Like, they were listing them, and it was a long list. But if I was Montgomery Clift, right, I would also have a long list of boyfriends, I think. So what the family did then is they got together with this other artist or author named Patricia Bosworth. And her story is kind of funny because she actually met Montgomery Clift when she was 15. Her dad was his lawyer, and he had just starred, I think, in his first or second movie. So he was huge. And she comes home from school. She's like 15 and sees him laying in her living room, like Montgomery Clift, like the biggest movie star. That's like coming home and like, 93 and Brad Pitt's laying in your living room. Like, you would piss and shit yourself and run into the bathroom and have instant loud diarrhea and scream.
Yes.
So she just stands there, she says, and looks at him, and she doesn't know what to do because she's in shock. And so she said she just curtsied to him like an asshole. And then he curtsied back to her.
Oh, no.
And then she didn't know what to do, so she ran up to her room.
Oh.
And so that's how she met him.
Did she call him Your Majesty?
I don't know, probably. Your penisness. Can I get you a dong or something to drink?
Oh, my God.
So the family works with her to write a book to kind of counteract this other book that came out. But when it comes out, she kind of does the same thing. Says he's drank himself to death because he was sad being gay. And the family's like, you dumb bitch. We told you that wasn't true a million times. We have him on tape saying he didn't give two shits. Like, he was pretty much, he was as open as he could have been without, like, literally getting arrested at the time in LA. He did get arrested in New Orleans for being either on a date with a man or looking for a date with a man. And in Los Angeles at the time, you could be arrested for being on a date or with a man intimately out in public or outside, or if they thought you were, which is just bullshit.
That's
again.
Weird. Yeah.
I mean, how dumb. And so she kind of fought with the family a bit, but a lot of the stuff is true, but the main stuff that they wanted to counteract, she didn't do. But what the main thing they wanted to push was how the most important thing in his life was his acting. So he was one of those weird ass method actors that was brand new, like Brando. And so he and Brando came up at about the same time. And Montgomery didn't want to say he was method or in the actor's studio like Brando, but he was. But he wanted to kind of separate from that. And when he worked with Elizabeth Taylor on A Place in the Sun, which I think was his second movie, Elizabeth Taylor said, her acting is, you give me the script and I just say the line flat and I look at the camera. That was her acting, she said, in a book I read about her.
Like watching The Office?
Right. Yeah. I look at the camera, she says, and I just say the line and I just read it.
Yeah.
And so, and she was really nervous to work with Montgomery Clift because he was this amazing actor. Before he got his movie roles, he was in New York doing all these plays. He did, for 14 years, he just did Broadway, plays on Broadway.
Wow.
Hollywood came to him again and again and again and again and again and offered him movie roles. And he said no, because you had to sign the 7-year contract with a studio. And he said, I'm not signing your contract. And they offered him more money. And he said, no, I'm not going to sign your contract and do movies you want me to do. And they're like, but this is so much money. And he said, I don't care. I'll just do these plays. I have enough money. And he would dress like a pauper and like dress like a shitty ass bum. His clothes were all torn. He had the tiniest apartment. He didn't give two shits about money. In fact, he never moved out of his tiny apartment he had at the beginning. And he always dressed in shitty clothes. And his friends would say, like, you have a lot of money. You can wear nice clothes. Like, he didn't care. And so finally, like, his first movie that I'll talk about that he got was Red River. And that has a massive gay scene in it. It took 14 years to get him to Hollywood. And so he was finally just gifted with everything because they wanted him so bad. So when he finally did the second movie with Liz Taylor, she just was terrified of him because he just had this legend of being so good that Hollywood bent over backwards. That's a bad phrase for him. And he just said, well, Liz, just read your line to me like you're talking to me like a normal person. And she's like, what? It's like, just talk to me like you're a normal person. You might say, don't stand there stiff. Just maybe sit in a chair or stand up during your line. Or, when he tried to teach her that kind of method acting, and she learned a ton from them. And Liz Taylor was a filthy bitch. She had like a super sailor swear mouth and was really funny. And those two, and he was like a clown, and those two, I guess, hit it off and became, like he said, soulmates. And she knew he was gay and, couldn't care less. And they became like super best friends and ended up doing 3 films together. And he just said Liz Taylor was like the one love of his life. And he said he has no idea why, but she was like the love of his life. And of course they were not together and they never had sex because Liz Taylor said she's only ever had sex with men she married. So theirs was just best friends, besties. But when he finally got his first movie, it was 28, he gets a role kind of second to John Wayne in a movie called Red River. So instantly Montgomery hates John Wayne because John Wayne just represents toxic masculinity. He's a massive dick. Mm-hmm. He's an arrogant asshole. He is really not like a great of an actor to Montgomery, and he treats everyone on set like a dick. And Montgomery just hates him. And of course, John Wayne hates Montgomery instantly too, but they just kind of have to get along. And do their lines. And what John hated about Montgomery is Montgomery wanted his character. He had like this insane idea that a man could be masculine, but also have empathy and like also be compassionate. And he wanted to bring that to his character. And that was like blew everyone's butthole off. Because that was not like they didn't know what to do with that. And that's what Montgomery wanted to bring to all his characters. Like, I can be a man and then like be caring and empathetic and still be the lead and be a man. And he kept explaining that to people because you had John Wayne who would just be like, "Oh, just beat up that bitch if she's not listening," and that's what it was like in the movies. And he's like, maybe let's not beat up the bitch and just listen to what her story is and offer her some water and untie her and see what her story and see what she has to say, and so they fought all the time. Now, in this movie, Red River is, again, one of the gayest scenes that is not supposed to be gay. But I feel like when you watch Montgomery's face, he knew it was the gayest scene ever. Yeah. Because so Montgomery's standing there, and then this other guy who I feel knew it was the gayest scene comes up and he says, "Hey, I want to take a look at your gun. It seems like it was a real nice gun." And Montgomery's face, because he takes like a beat or two or three, and the look on his face is like, I know you want to look at my gun, but you really want to take a look at my giant dick. And if I was that guy and he looked at me like that, I would take out my giant dick too. Like, the look he gave was like, I can't describe it, but it's like he knew hilarious. He knew what was being asked without being asked. Like, you could see it in his face. And so then the guy takes the gun and goes, "This is real nice gun. It's real smooth gun." And then he says, "You want to see my gun?" And Montgomery's like, "Yeah, I do." And then he just pulls "Let me whip this gun out and you can see this gun." I mean, it goes on like that. And it is like the gayest thing I've ever seen. But I think they knew what they were doing because the look on their face and in their eyes, it's like, yeah, you know what you're doing.
Yeah, and they're trying not to break character, too.
Oh, yeah. They look like they're dying. Yeah. Because, I mean, it's in his eyes. You can see it. Oh, my God.
Well, that's one of the funny things about all these old movies. Like, I love looking at all of these old clips and stuff because there's so much subtext,
my God,
and it's like it's just everywhere. But they couldn't be, overtly out with, certain themes. And so it's really clever, actually, and it's really fun to watch.
Yeah, that's hidden in a lot of it, and in fact, like a lot of the scenes between those two characters, you could kind of see almost it was like such a gay subtext in the movie throughout. Like they were kind of a couple almost, and again, you couldn't do that then because the world would split in two and everybody would die, but. I mean, my God, it would have been awesome if it was. Those two had some chemistry. So then the second film he was in, he looks at the script and he's like, "Can I just rewrite it to make it better? Because it kind of sucks." So he did. And then he gets nominated for an Oscar. And then in his contract after that, he's allowed to just rewrite his lines, like just his. And so he does that from then on, and he rewrites a lot of his movies, and he keeps getting nominated for Oscars then after that, over and over. And he just has this like talent for like how to, he has an opinion on, the directing and everything. And he throws all this effort into making movies and like his art and his craft, and that's all he cared about. Like I said, his clothes were shit. He's living in a shitty apartment. He really didn't care about any money, and all the, gossip rags. They would always be like, "Oh, he never has a gal on his arm," or whatever. He would just say, "I'm too busy." I mean, he was like plowing 40 guys probably, on the side, but he was like busy all the time too. There is a story how he dated he worked for Paramount Studio, and the president of Paramount had a handsome daughter named Julie Balaban. And the president of Paramount went on vacation to like the Caribbean with his whole family and his daughter, who was probably like 19, came, and he invited Montgomery to come with because he thought he was just a great regular guy. You know, I'm sure he didn't know he was gay, but. And then Julie and Montgomery, I guess, hit it off, and they said he dated her for a year, but they didn't mention if they did anything, but maybe they did or whatever. But she said they had a relationship for like a year that ended. So I don't know if that he did or not, but he really never, he was totally there with other men. He would be flirting with other men there too. And he was never really closeted, actually, too, according to some of his dates. He didn't really try to hide it. So what I think kind of sent his addiction maybe into overdrive is after he actually made 3 movies with Liz Taylor, but his second movie with her called Raintree County, Liz has this massive party. She was married to one of her husbands then, Michael Wilding, I think. She had 2 kids with him, and she actually lived in like a little cottage up in the Hollywood Hills. And I'm going to kind of take from Patricia's book here. She has a massive, party, and I'm sure they all were shit-faced. So I think this was in like 50, or what year was it? I'll find that out. I'm going to say 58. So they're all shit-faced. This friend of hers, Kevin McCarthy, not our shitty Kevin McCarthy, another Kevin McCarthy. And Montgomery, they leave, and I'm sure their cars have no seatbelts, no safety procedures or whatever. And they're, again, hammered to the gills. And they go down these Hollywood hills, that have curves. I'm sure there's no lights. And they're driving. This Kevin says he's driving ahead, and he looks in his rear view mirror, and he sees Monty's car behind him, just driving like a bat out of hell and like 1 inch behind him and swerving all over the road. And he knows Monty's like a clown, so he thought he was just trying to scare him and be a dick and like just try to pretend to send him over the cliff. I don't know. So Kevin McCarthy starts driving faster to try to be like, I don't want you to crash into me, you dick. And then he notices Monty's car just swerving all over, and Monty then swerves and nails into a telephone pole and smashes it. So Kevin pulls over, runs over to the car, and the car is smashed. The front end is completely accordion smashed. And he couldn't even see Monty in the car. He runs around the car, looks around. He couldn't even see him in. And he couldn't even open the front or side front doors. He looks in kind of the back window, and he can see Monty like under the dash, like his whole body under the dash. And he's like, I think he's dead. So he gets in his car, drives to Liz's house, and he's hysterical. And he's like, call an ambulance or call a hospital. I think Monty's dead in his car. So Liz Taylor, that's her best friend. She freaks out, and he's like, no, Liz, you don't want to see this. And he's trying to keep her at home, and her husband, Michael's trying to keep her at home. But she's like, fuck you, gets in her car and drives down there. And they're saying, you don't want to see this. You don't want to see this. She jumps out, and she's trying to open the door, and she cannot open the door and get in. So she like kicks out the back windows and crawls through the back up to the front seats and pulls him out from under the dash and holds his head up. And Kevin said his whole face is like sheared off. It looks like his face is missing. It's like pulp. And so she holds him up, and she can see he's kind of like breathing. So she says he's breathing, he's alive, but then he starts choking. And Liz says, so like something's in his throat. She opens his mouth, and he has teeth are stuck in the back of his throat and blocking his airway. So she takes her hand and starts pulling his teeth out of his throat that are stuck in there, and then he can breathe. And she holds his like bloody head on her lap until the police come. And so what happened was he broke like almost every bone in his face, and he tore away, like degloved some of his face, like where the skin comes off. And I think he had like some broken bones in his ribs, but he got most of it literally on his moneymaker, his face. This is like a handsome man. And he goes to the hospital. He gets plastic surgery. He only took 2 months to recover. And I can't really notice the difference, really. He finished his movie, Raintree County, I think, and I don't I can't really notice a difference. I mean, his face came off.
Right.
But in order to deal with the pain, and he was already probably a class 10 booze hound.
Right.
He started drinking massively and taking pain pills, because I'm sure it hurts when your face is peeled off.
Yeah.
And you are in an accident that probably breaks your ribs or your arms. Now he says he didn't mind that his looks, that he had some scars, which again, I can't tell. And he said his best acting then was done after his accident because he had more life experience. So the accident didn't really cause him to have this depression, which people might think, you're a movie star. You used to be handsome and now you have all these scars. So again, you're depressed. Maybe you'll drink yourself to death. He didn't seem to care, at least what he said. But I'm sure the pain in the drinking is another thing. And again, alcoholism probably, when people nobody had seatbelts, everyone drove hammered, everyone drank at work all day long, like a madman in the 60s. They drank at work all day long and didn't give two shits. So I think that had a lot to do with it. So his addiction just grew. And what I think the final thing was, at the very end of his life, he did a movie called The Misfits with Marilyn Monroe and Clark Gable. And in the documentary, there's this funny part where Robert, the documentarian, said his dad said that Monty did admit to having sex with Marilyn Monroe, but they said, the documentarian Robert said, I did when I was 14, saw Monty's autopsy after he died, and it said he had a very tiny penis. The Robert said, but if he could get Marilyn Monroe with that tiny dick, maybe there's hope for me to get a girl. He was thinking this when he was 14.
Oh my God.
I was like, oh, that kind of ruined it for me. But anyway, the director of that movie was John Huston, Angelica Houston's dad. He's a pretty famous director. And John Huston ended up suing Monty for saying he wasn't learning his lines, kind of the Johnny Depp thing, showing up hammered, late, not learning his lines. And Montgomery said that's absolutely not true. You're being a dick, and kind of countersued him. But what ended up happening is he lost his insurance to do movies. And if you're not insured, no movie studio is going to hire you. And he couldn't work for 4 years. And so what they think John Huston got so angry at him for, which is so bizarre, is John Huston brought the cast to his Ireland castle, and Montgomery had sex with some guy there in the castle, and John Huston was super upset by it. They want to be like, you work in Hollywood, everyone's gay. What do you mean? Why would you be upset with that, you dick? But the 4 years of not doing what he loved, which the only thing that he really liked was making movies, that's what turned him super depressed, and then upped his drinking from a 40 out of 10 to 100 out of 10. And his chemical abuse. And it wasn't short after that. He dies in 1966. He was only 45.
Jeez.
And it was a heart attack. I'm sure just heart failure from
all of it.
Being a complete alcoholic.
Yeah.
And a chemical abuse, and his body just couldn't take it. But it was not everything I found and people said, it was not, he didn't give two shits about being gay, but of course he couldn't be out.
Right.
Which is stressful, but it looked like he was as out as he could be if he's kissing his boyfriends in the middle of restaurants and just walking hand in hand and not, getting arrested for trying to date men in New Orleans. What else do you do in New Orleans?
I know. Jeez.
Yeah, so I thought that was pretty interesting that his whole story was...
Yeah,
everything they say about him was actually not true. He was just a regular alcoholic like everybody else. Right. But he was a good-looking guy.
That's not the story I do.
No.
But, wow. All right. Thank you. So, my guy is Sal Mineo.
I'm excited to learn about him.
This was so interesting to me because... So if people aren't familiar with Sal Mineo, if you see his picture, you will recognize him as one of the teen heartthrobs of the 50s. So Sal, okay, so I watched, I think his name is Jerry Skinner. It's kind of all these like, he does these old Hollywood kind of documentaries. I think they're only for YouTube, or they seem really old. But, and then I watched some other interviews. So Sal Mineo is best known for playing Plato in Rebel Without a Cause, which is like one of my favorite movies of all time for lots and lots of reasons. He was only 16 years old, and that got him a Best Supporting Actor nomination, and he was the youngest person until that point to ever be nominated.
Oh, I bet.
And so he was also in Giant, which was also a James Dean movie, also starring Rock Hudson, who will probably end up on one of our future episodes.
I'm sure.
And our favorite Liz Taylor. And fun fact about Giant, I think I've told you this before, but I saw it in the theater. I'm not 95 years old. I know.
And you're younger than me?
Right.
How old am I? Gray pubes?
It was like a anniversary.
Nice.
That it was re-released in the theater, and so
did they do the wide? Was it widescreen and all that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it had an intermission and everything, and it was
so that you could go get your 20 drinks back then. And piss
so it
a
was.
River.
Yeah. I think I was in college. It was in San Diego. So anyway, so Sal was also in Exodus with Jill Hayworth. And that got him a Golden Globe Award and his second Academy Award nomination.
Dang.
And he did a bunch of other shows, and he was in Escape from the Planet of the Apes. I think that was one of his last movies.
Oh.
So anyway, he received thousands and thousands, as you can imagine, like a teen heartthrob would, thousands of fan letters. And he was mobbed like everywhere he would go, and public appearances, and probably at the airport, and like, on Hollywood Boulevard or whatever he's doing. And he was known to have dated the most beautiful women in Hollywood and New York City. So, yes. So he was born, he was born Salvatore Mineo. So he's junior. On January 10th, 1939, and he was born in the Bronx. And so and his parents are from Sicily. So he's first generation, right? And he has a thick New York accent. But one of the funny things that I love about all these movies is that everybody has like that London Madonna accent, like the Hollywood
like
accent.
A transatlantic, where they try to mix American accent with a British accent, and they used to teach them like actors that so that you could pass for like both American or British.
And you sound
kind of like a
weird,
a weirdo.
Yeah. Like you're putting.
Are you having a stroke?
Yeah, you're putting on airs, or like why are you pronouncing it? Whatever. Anyway. But yeah, like Madonna did that, when she married Guy Ritchie, and then she moved to London, and it was like, what?
Yeah, what happened?
Nobody says that word that way, Madonna. So anyway, so he's also one of a few Italian-American actors who kept his last name because he was proud of his. Yeah, it's great. He was proud of his heritage and his identity. And then they say that he was a troubled, quotes, troubled youth.
Because he was different?
Probably, right. And he ran around with the street gangs and stuff. And yeah, so either he was different because he was gay, or, like a lot of kids like we grew up probably were like dyslexic or had some sort of learning difference. And then they were just like, oh yeah, he's troubled, right?
Yeah. So, no help for anything.
No.
Just
so
told
then,
the fuck off.
Yeah, blame the victim here. So his mother, just like Monty, his mother enrolled him in dance and acting classes, as one does, and he really took to acting. And he first appeared at age 11 at a Tennessee Williams play called The Rose Tattoo. Oh. And his first role on stage, like main role, was the Crown Prince with Yul Brynner in the stage musical The King and I didn't know this, so this is really cool. And then, at 16, he starred in Rebel Without a Cause with James Dean and Natalie Wood, which we could do a whole episode on Rebel Without a Cause, because I love this movie so much. And actually,
And
I
Natalie
find,
Wood getting
yeah, and,
murdered.
oh my God,
Jesus
right?
Christ.
And so a lot of people, I mean, I was obsessed with James Dean when I was
Well,
younger.
who couldn't be?
But it was Sal Mineo's character, Plato, who like I think I most like identified with in that movie. And so like I just have always loved that movie. Anyway, so when he was 21, he starred in Exodus with Jill Hayworth, who is not related to Rita Hayworth. They're spelled differently. And then they would end up dating, quote unquote dating, and were even engaged at one point. But then she
Engaged in forever hand holding.
That's right. She broke it off after she caught him in sexual relations with a man.
She said, "How come your wiener is touching that man's wiener?"
She's like, "What did I walk into here?" So
can I join?
I've never seen that before.
Oh.
Right.
Can I take a picture?
Yes.
Oh. You want me to get out? Oh.
You're ruining the mood, Jill.
Yeah, get out, Jill! You goddamn bitch! Get out! Close the door!
Yeah, so that was it for her. But they were
got the hint.
They would remain friends.
Of course.
And so so this is a fun fact in the about Jill. So Sal was really upset that apparently she was dating Aaron Spelling. So we know who Aaron Spelling is, right?
Yeah.
The writer and producer. Yeah. I know. And so Aaron was 22 years older than Jill. And Sal punched Aaron and yelled at him and said, "Do you know how old she is? What are you doing with her at your age?" It's like, oh my God. So, I mean, he's probably like 45, right?
Aaron Spelling must have been 135 when he died.
He's like 1,000 now.
He had a diaper for his diaper.
Seriously. Oh my God. So
a cane for his diaper
Yes.
It's time for my diaper to take its back pill.
Oh my God. I don't think Aaron Spelling has ever been young, ever.
No, he was born Methuselah. Gray pubes.
Oh my God.
Why does my baby have diaper already, but it's full of man-sized poops?
These giant turds. Yeah. So anyway. Life. Yeah. So Sal punched him. Thank you,
Good
Sal.
for Sal.
Yeah. You're doing the Lord's work here.
He is.
So he got back into stage productions in the 70s. So back to Sal. And he was, mostly doing, I guess he kind of ran out of favor or ran out of popularity after the 60s. And then in this 1976, he was working on a play called P.S. Your Cat is Dead. I've never heard of this. Never heard of this play. But on February 12th, 1976, he was outside of his apartment at 8569 Holloway Drive in West Hollywood. And you can see it, like it still exists today. And you can go to, like, there's like Google Maps of like, it doesn't say like this happened here, but he was stabbed only once, but in the heart by a man who was just mugging him. It had nothing to do had nothing to do with anything. It was so random. And then
Dolph Lundgren can get shot 45 times in the dick in a movie, and he still fights for the last hour. Right. Oh, and one stab. Oh,
I know.
God, that's just
this
awful.
Poor Sal. And, you know, he was like a tiny guy, too.
Yeah.
And nothing was taken from him. Like his wallet,
nothing.
His keys were like right there next to him.
Jesus.
Right. So he was only 37.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
That's so young.
So the guy that murdered him, his name is Lionel Ray Williams, was his murderer, and he had quite the record. And like this is it turns into like a true crime kind of story. There's a whole thing on this guy, Lionel Ray Williams. And in 1979, 1979, he was convicted and sentenced to 57 years in prison. But after 12 years, he was paroled in 1990. Of course, right? Because like killing a gay man is probably not all that big of a deal. But
No.
so this is like this is so wild. So Sal was, I guess, known to be like openly bisexual, and so it wasn't really a secret. Probably by the time he was in his 30s, but when he died, he was in a relationship with a retired acting coach named Courtney Burr III for like 6 years.
Oh.
So he finally was able to like live his life and be himself, right? So Sal is buried in Hawthorne, New York, near his parents and his brother. I guess his family was really close. And so I watched this. I watched another interview with him, and it's when he was young. He was like 18 years old, and it's one of these, like right now, it'd be comparable to like a TMZ kind of thing or something like that, where they catch him at the airport. You know, he's like about to fly off to New York or something. And where is it? He said, the man asked, you know, like with the microphone in his face, like, what kind of girls do you like?
I like them with big penises.
Yes, right. He said that this is like the most amazing answer because it's so like it's so textbook. He says the most important thing, and this is like with that you know, Hollywood accent, right?
Yeah.
The most important thing is the girl's personality. I don't think looks mean that much. Well, yeah, of course they don't.
Yeah, because you're not.
Because the girl's not a guy.
She don't have a dome.
Right. Yeah, I don't think looks mean that much. And a girl that has a good sense of humor.
Of course.
Okay, Sal, like, come on. Anyway, we've
yeah.
all used that line before.
She needs to be able to bake cookies and laugh about it.
Right.
And be able to drink 400 whiskeys.
Oh, God.
Like
it's
me.
so funny.
Oh, my gosh.
So
Poor guy, though.
I know.
What a shitty end.
I know. And he was like so incredibly popular. So I don't know if you know that. I didn't know this, but so I found some other like tidbit things. So in the stage play for Grease, like the stage script, in Look at Me, I'm Sandra Dee, you know that song? He's mentioned in that, like there's a line, it's the line, instead of Elvis, it's Sal Mineo or something.
Oh, yeah.
And so what happened in the movie is that they changed the line to the lyrics to have Elvis instead of Sal Mineo because he had just been murdered.
Oh, yeah.
So they were like, yeah, that's kind of
morbid, I guess.
Out of distasteful. So the line is like, no, Sal Mineo, I would never stoop so low. Just keep your cool. Now you're standing to drool. Da, 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 da. I'm Sandra Dee. But that's not in the movie. You don't hear that. It's the Elvis line. It's like towards the end of the song. Anyway, and then on the TV show Will and Grace, which I just have always loved that show. There's an episode with Cheetah Rivera and another really famous like stage actress. And they are like these closeted, like old lesbians. and they're trying to go after Will. And she says, he looks just like that young actor, you know, from all those magazines. And then, what's his name? Yeah, Sal Mineo. It's like, from the 50s.
I know, and so many people then would have no
idea who he is, right?
No idea who he is. And think of someone who was so popular and did amazing work.
Totally.
In movies.
Totally. And then actually another line in Will and Grace, Karen, who is an iconic character.
Yes. There's
she
never going to be
says,
another Karen.
No. She's like, well, it's the oldest story in the world, honey. Boy meets girl, boy meets new girl, boy dips girl, boy sleeps with boys. Wait a minute. Maybe that's not the oldest story. maybe that's the Sal Mineo story.
It is.
And of course, I totally get the reference because I've known who Sal Mineo is like forever. But anyway, so I loved learning about Sal's life. And he always went back to New York. Like he always stayed true to his roots. So that was really, really nice. And I think one of the interesting things about Sal Mineo, right? He's Italian, but he also played like in Giant. He played like I think he was a Mexican character. And so because his skin was dark, right? So he looked
darker hair and
ethnic, right? So he probably got roles like that. And then, I mean, in The King and I, he's playing a Thai Thai prince. Like, okay, this is
Yul Brynner.
Yeah, right. He's white, so I know. I mean, we could unpack.
We could go
a lot
into that
of,
for
right,
forever.
That's right. Yeah, the yellow face and the brown face and all that in Hollywood is not a good time. But
no.
So that's Sal.
Good job.
Good old Sal. Yeah.
I know. I feel bad for him now.
I know.
But good. So that is our show. So if you enjoyed it, what will help is to give a rating to whatever you listen to and a review so people can see that, and to share on your social media or tell your friends so that it can spread by word of mouth. That's usually how podcasts spread the easiest. But a review and rating helps when they're brand new the best. So if you could do that, that would be wonderful. And we'll have another one for you soon.
Yes.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you.